Yaneek is the program lead for Market Entry USA and the founder and managing director of Future Services International. She's a highly sought after speaker with a wealth of experience in supporting entrepreneurs, and have been doing amazing things even in COVID-19 to keep connected with her customers, with her audience, with her tribe. My friend, my sister Yaneek, it's lovely to have you. It's your time to take it away.
Okay, you're so kind. It's so good to see you. First of all, you're doing a fantastic job. You look great. So I just have to begin. I've been hearing you. You're just amazing. The camera loves you. You're awesome. Denise was just fantastic a while ago. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning if you're watching from somewhere else. Good evening. It's great to join you. And I'm so excited to be the last presenter, right? I see that we've had such great engagement through the day, and congratulations just for doing this. I think it's amazing. So as Tishana said, I'm going to quickly share with you a little bit about the future of work, COVID-19, and what it all means, right? Because now we're actually saying, well, what's next? So let me see if I can share my screen with you real fast. Okay. So now I'm sharing my screen, and hopefully you're able to see this presentation. And what I'm going to do is to put it on slideshow from beginning, and hopefully you all can see that. Tishana, can you see?
Yeah, there's usually a delay on my end, and I see it delayed. I'm not seeing it yet. I'm hoping that the audience can tell us in the feed if they're seeing us, or the presentation rather.
Are you seeing this, the future of work?
No, I'm not seeing that as yet. Let me see in the private chat if they're seeing it on their end. So I'm not seeing it yet. Can you let us know if you're seeing the presentation? They are not seeing cookie move.
They're not seeing it. Okay, so let me just make an adjustment here. So I'm going to share. Okay. And I clicked on that. Okay. All right, so you should be seeing it now. Are you seeing this now?
Yes, we can see it bright and clear.
Awesome. Okay, so you should be seeing.
And the graphic, the circles, yes, we're seeing it.
Perfect. So you're seeing the future of work and COVID-19, and it's really showing. Perfect. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is just a few things with COVID-19 considerations. I mean, I heard all of what Denise said. Ditto, ditto, ditto. I agree. And there are three things that I have been writing about, talking about, and I want people to really think about, because this is very important. So in the work that I do in training, coaching, supporting entrepreneurs from all over the world, for this year alone, and even just yesterday, I actually did coaching for an entrepreneur in Dubai. So I'm talking about training people, I like to say, from Mexico to Madagascar. I have a very good handle on what's happening all over the world. But part of my work involves reviewing, since COVID-19, the impact of the major recessions, the major global recessions on economies around the world. And there's something that's really fascinating that I really want you guys to think about, because there are three things of all that I have reviewed. There are three things that are consistent and that could guide us, because, you know, sometimes history really gives us an idea of things that we must consider for the future. So these three things is, first of all, as the world has become more and more interconnected, countries take longer to recover from recessions. I want to make that point very clearly. It takes longer and longer. Denise kind of gave you an idea of some of the major recessions that we've had. I'm going to share with you that the last major global recession before this COVID-19 happened in 2007 to 2008, and it's known as the Great Recession. Some people call it the financial meltdown, the financial crisis. And really what happened is that all around the world, countries suffered from this tightening of capital. And I will have you know that what's fascinating is that the greatest economy in the world, the US economy, took 8 years to recover from that recession. In fact, when President Barack Obama handed over to President Trump, that was when the US was just getting out of that 8-year-long recession. Okay, and for Jamaica in particular, it wasn't until last year, late 2018, 2019, that we started to see Jamaica recover, right? And so it is taking longer and longer for the world to come out of it. And the projection from even the IMF recently, which has been criticized for being a little bit too optimistic, is that the US economy may recover from this recession in 2022, and therefore Jamaica will recover a year after. It's expected that we will lag a year behind. The other thing that I want you to think about, number 2, which is also important, very critical for us, is that vulnerable countries take longer to recover from these recessions, especially countries like ours that rely very heavily on tourism. I want you guys to really think about that, because what that means is that given that the impact of COVID-19 has been so severe on travel and tourism and will continue to constrict the way people are able to move, it doesn't look very, we are hoping for the best, but we have to be realistic and know that we're not going to see tourism recover to where it was before in the near future. Certainly not until there's a vaccine or there's some treatment that allows people to feel more comfortable and to be less seriously affected by this. The third thing, and this one is huge, every major recession has seen a widening of the income gap and the wealth gap. And this is really problematic, because what we're seeing is that wealthier companies and wealthier people are becoming more wealthy. And in fact, I shared an article recently on this because we're seeing the early signs of that already, right? So Amazon, which is, of course, the wealthiest company in the world right now, and the principal being Jeff Bezos, being his wealth has increased so much since this crisis. We are seeing that many businesses are closed, and people are now actually just using these online services to be able to order their goods and so on. And what that means is a huge widening of the wealth gap, and it continues. And so when you have these 3 considerations, that should factor into your planning for the future of work. It should factor into your planning for what will come next. So what does that really mean? Let's talk about some trends that we've seen with the future of work. So a few things. Before this crisis, the future of work was already digital. That was where the world was going. It was certainly a greater focus on being able to do more jobs through automation. The future of work was also independent, which means we were seeing more people not just find jobs online, not just work from home, but they were doing this as independent contractors, not necessarily as employees, right? So that the future of work meant less job security. The future of work meant greater independence. The other thing is that the future of work was also more flexible. And so, with that lack of job security came a lot of flexibility, where people were staying in certain jobs for a shorter time, and that we were also anticipating that what would happen is that you would have not only more job hopping, but also people being able to change their careers 4, 5, 6 times in their lifetime or more. I anticipate that COVID-19 may even exaggerate this. And then the last one, which had serious implications even for Jamaica's BPO sector, which relies so heavily, we rely very heavily on that for employment. And unfortunately, we were always at the lower end of the spectrum because we had the lowest level of BPO jobs, mainly a lot of call center jobs. BPO is a huge global industry, and in terms of business process outsourcing, and there's so many skill sets that, and different areas. And unfortunately, we were not getting as fast. We were not getting up there in terms of getting the higher value jobs. I'm going to come back to that point. But this part about AI independence, what was happening was that chatbots were becoming more popular. So instead of using people, right, what was happening is that, and this was actually happening even in some of our own BPOs here, where they were actually populating the data so that they could use chatbots instead of people because it costs less. This is very important for us to think about because, technology becomes So critical. So what I want you guys to think about is that when you look at these dynamics, what it means is that the future of work is going to be very different from what we are seeing now. I've brought up here, for those of you who want to do any reading on future of work, I mean, if you ask me, Yaneek, who is the authority in this space, it's typically the World Economic Forum. I follow them on Instagram. I follow them on Twitter. I read their reports. I'm encouraging you to do a lot of reading. Why? Because the World Economic Forum tends to reach out to countries around the world to get the perspective of leaders, of business leaders, to be able to form opinions that are grounded in data. Okay, so I want you to look at some of these skill sets, for example, because I always like to share a success story, because I've been working with so many people from around the world for so many years. And last year, I was coming from the Netherlands and I was coming back to Jamaica to work on digital transformation for one of our major tech firms. And I'm in the airport at Miami International Airport, and a young lady walks up to me, and I'm really tired because the flight from Amsterdam to Miami was 8 hours, and I'm just really exhausted. And this lady comes up to me, and normally I'm bubbly and friendly, but boy, that day I was just not in it. And she says, Yaneek, I can see that you're tired, but I need to tell you thank you because you've changed my life. And this young lady proceeded to tell me that because of the advice I shared, she has been following me, she was able to find her dream job online, and that she was making almost 3 times what she used to make working in a Jamaican company. And for me, that was just, I was really excited because I was like, wow, 3 times? But I asked her the question that was most important for me, because at the end of the day, I think we've all learned in this crisis that money is important, but it's not all. Right? And so there are many people who are in jobs before that were literally making them sick, jobs that make them unhappy, that were really shortening their lifespan. They're working so hard and then they come home in the evening and that's it. They collapse and then they do it all over again. And before you know it, by the time they're ready to retire, they're gone. So they've never had any opportunity to enjoy any quality of life. So I asked her this question, which for me was so critical. I said to her, are you happy? Most important question for me. And her response was, and I want you guys to listen to this carefully because it really, I believe, I don't know how many of you believe in are faith-based and you believe in a supreme being, but I can tell you that that woman for me was a godsend. She didn't come up to me by accident. We didn't meet in that airport by accident. She said, Yaneek, happy is an understatement. I got goose pimples, and even as I tell this story now, I feel this overwhelming sense of joy for her, because here it is that there is this young lady who was able to find a job online that was paying her more, but she was so happy. And by the way, she was working from home. Interestingly, when I saw her at Miami International Airport that day, like me, she was coming from Europe. Like me, she had been hired to go and do training. Right? But for a specific company. And what is fascinating, and I want you guys to listen carefully to this, most of the skills that she used for that job were completely different in terms of her hard skills. So nothing that I don't want to tell you what she did before it, because it may give her away. But let us say that she had a special area. And the job that she was doing now was not remotely related to what she did before. And so what the employer looked for before they upskilled her were soft skills. So I'm going to walk you through some of those critical soft skills that have made a difference for her and that you can reflect on as well as share, because this was very important. If you look on the left of your screen, you should be seeing Top Skills 2020. This is taken from the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report. There are updated versions. You can always go on. I'm sure they may change with COVID-19, but this is still instructive. So if you notice, the number 1 skill is problem solving, complex problems, not even regular complex problem solving, complex. What does that mean? It means the world is getting more and more complex, and what employers need, the most employable skill right now, is that you don't just run away from problems. You say, I am the problem solver. You have a problem? That's my specialization. The work gets hard, don't worry about it, because I am the person that you come to who has the ability to solve these issues. That is the #1 skill. So I think Denise was mentioning in her presentation earlier, it's so important for you to be able to upskill yourself. I couldn't agree more. And what you need to do is to understand what value employers are looking for, and they will forever look for people who can solve problems, because the problems in the world are getting worse. The next thing, very related to that, is critical thinking. Why? Because in order for you to solve these problems, you need to be a critical thinker. You need to look at every single possibility. You need to be able to analyze. You need to ask yourself why. You need to be able to say, well, why not this way? You know what I mean? So it means that you need to apply that critical analysis to these issues to be able to be a problem solver. The other one is creativity. A lot of Jamaicans have it. We have it. We just misuse it sometimes. But again, that's critical. So the top 3 skills have to do all with being able to address the issues of the world and add value. And if you notice, the rest of them have everything to do with how you manage people and relationships with people. It's an area that many of us struggle in. If you look even online today, I know all of you are probably on social media. Look at how people engage on social media. Look at what happens when there's a difference of opinion. Look at the language that they use. Look at the tone in what they have written. Look at how they engage. It is untenable. It is not useful. Most people, it doesn't matter how skilled you are, how bright you are, if you do not have the ability to engage with people respectively, to be able to listen, to be open, you are going to struggle. It is so huge. And so people management, being able to coordinate with others, emotional intelligence is huge. It means that you have the ability to not just understand and lead with understanding how people feel, but then you show up in a way that your behavior, you're mindful of your own behavior and how that comes into a space. How if you come on a call in the morning that you're supposed to join a team meeting in the morning and you show up and your face is long and you're miserable, you drain the energy from the room. That's being emotionally unintelligent. Because what happens is that nobody can be inspired by that attitude. It's huge, right? So judgment and decision making, service orientation. Many of us don't believe in service at all. If you look at the problems that we have in this country, almost 70% of our economy is service based. And if you are able to find 10 companies that offer good customer service consistently, you find a lot. And it's nothing for us to laugh and smile about. We complain about, oh, Jamaican restaurants always run out of food. Jamaican restaurants, you know, if you look at our global brand for Jamaican restaurants, you know, we brag and laugh about how the food tastes good. But what else? What else is consistent with Jamaican restaurants typically? People would say that the service is bad. The people have no manners. They tell you that you come for oxtail. They say, okay, there is none, but take what you get. I mean, it's people don't believe that their role is to make others happy. And that's so critical. And then there's the negotiation. And this last piece about cognitive flexibility. What it means is that you have the ability to flex. You're not rigid or dogmatic. It means that you can unlearn and relearn. That is so important. There are people who are stuck in their ways. They refuse to learn any other way. You can't tell them anything. Those skill sets are not useful. All right, so I wanted just to point those out because that is huge. And these soft skills are actually more important now than even the hard skills because they're so hard to find and they're so important in every job. And what I want to leave with you is that in terms of moving forward, one of the things that I like to call her my dream Jane. One of the things that she was able to do is to demonstrate to these employers that she has these skills. And she did that by doing training. So she upskilled herself. That was really important. But not only did she upskill herself, which is fascinating, she made sure, because let me just go back to this list of skills, right? People can say, yes, they will ask you in a job interview, are you a complex problem solver? Yes, I'm a problem solver. That's not enough. Okay, so there is the value, as I like to say, and then there's the validation. So the question with validation is, show me the proof. Show me when you have been able to solve a complex problem. What was the outcome? What faculties did you apply? So it's important for you to try to develop your skill sets in these areas, but you also need to demonstrate your ability to do it. And you need some validation. Always think about that. It serves you so well. And if you don't have the validation, go earn it. You need to, in your current job, you need to go find a way that you showed that you were able to, through through critical thinking and creativity, solve a complex problem. And you can give these examples because employers are looking for these, right? These skills didn't come out of nowhere. This is based on survey and what employers have said. And I just want to point out that in Jamaica, the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, and of course, God bless her soul, the minister unfortunately passed away today, lovely lady. But that ministry produces a report every single year. It's called the State of the Jobs Market. Don't quote me on the exact name because I've been reading all of these reports in recent times. But the report that is produced by the ministry every single year, it tells you, and I want you guys to start looking at this information, right? It tells you what jobs employers are looking for and what jobs they cannot find. What's fascinating is that every single year, almost 70% of these companies report that they have vacancies that they cannot fill. Some time ago, one of our leading financial institutions had outlined that they were looking at offering jobs in the digital space because everybody's moving to digitization. Companies aren't looking to hire more people. Companies are looking to hire fewer people and use AI, artificial intelligence, and other technology to supplement those jobs. Why? Because AI don't give attitude. Okay, right? A chatbot can't give you attitude. Right? And I saw someone share recently that she had such a positive experience with a chatbot, better than any experience with a human being. That tells us a lot. It speaks to our lack of service orientation. So what I want you guys to really think about is, what is the data showing us? Where is the mismatch and how can we fill that gap? So what's next? What does this mean for all of us? It means that I am like you reflecting. I know that the trends and the future of jobs will change a lot. It is what we saw before COVID-19, the future is different. Some of those jobs that have been lost will never come back. We've seen it in every single recession. One of the most amazing things is that we've seen amazing companies grow out of recessions. So there are opportunities. Let's not lie down and play dead. And the people I'm working with all over the world, I can promise you, they are pivoting and they are maximizing on opportunities. And some people are already making a lot of money. So I want you guys to really kind of think about this and also understand that it's not business as usual and you need to plan. So what does that actually mean? A plan means look at the landscape. What do people need? What is changing? Where are the opportunities? Okay. And then how can you upskill yourself to add that value? Bearing in mind the hard skills I shared with you. And then you want to kind of, here's a question I want all of you to think of today, because this is the problem that Jamaica has always had. We need to reimagine industry in this country. And let me tell you why we need to reimagine it. Because right now, not only are we overly dependent on one industry, which is tourism, that industry is one which is fraught with inequality and inequity. It is one where a few people get very rich and many people are working at very, very low wages. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the highest and best return on every minute I spend, on every dollar I invest? That is the question that we must ask ourselves. We must ask ourselves, what's the highest and best return on my skill set, on my talent, on my time? That's what I should strive for. That's what I should plan towards. That's where my effort should be. And that is where you're going to execute, you're going to measure, and you are going to network. And so I hope that I have not gone over my time. I didn't. That's great. And what I want to do now is to turn it back over to Tashana to see if there are any questions that anyone might have.
Wow, Yaneek. People are saying this is like college 101 in some course as it relates to, you know, the rise of the digital workforce. And you spoke about the future of jobs, and you know, you gave us a lot of insights about actually what is happening on the ground, what is our Jamaican reality, what are some areas that we really need to shake up and, you know, and change. Yeah, what skills does our young people need to be looking into? And as you spoke about the future of work, a lot of people are reflecting on their careers. You know, you may be just finishing up university, you're wondering how you're going to get a job in this time. What would be your advice to that, you know, 2019, 2020 year graduate? You're graduating now, you know, some components of your degree, like, you know, student scholars in London, you're doing a dissertation, you can't do it the full way that you wanted to do it, right? What would you say to this person? They're graduating now from UE, wherever, and you're just coming out to the job market. What's your advice to that graduate?
You have to look at where the money is and go where the jobs are. And it means you have to be hungry as well. I mean, some of us tended to believe that, okay, I'm going to get this degree, it's going to give me an advantage. When I left university with a master's degree, and I graduated at the top of my class with distinction many years ago, and I was a scholarship awardee. I mean, I had all of it, I thought. It took me 7 months. 7 months. And since that time, I've always been asking for this. We don't, you know, statin does not track how long it takes to find a job, unfortunately. What statin tracks is the unemployment rate. It's also helpful, and I've always asked for this, and I'm going to keep asking for it. It'd be helpful to also know how long it takes to find a job. And without that information, I can't say much in terms of what the trajectory could look like. But what I will say is that you need to look online. You need to go on LinkedIn. You need to do some strong personal branding. Now is the time when you have to make your online presence really matter. And a lot of people are misusing it. There are people out there who are every day they're online and they're idling and they're, well, if you have the space to do that and you have money and you can support yourself, fine. For the people who don't and who need to be able to earn, you can't afford to use social media in any way other than a purposeful way to build your brand, to create relationships, to allow you to enter new networks and to be able to find out where those opportunities are. You should be setting Google alerts. If you haven't done it already for your area, every single day I read, I set my Google alerts. I've changed some of them, but I'm always looking. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not job hunting, but I want to know what jobs are available in my fields. So if you're doing these things, then where are you going to get information from? Because ain't nobody going to pick it up and give it to you. You literally have to get up and say, okay, it's a new normal. I cannot even go for an interview physically for now. People ain't doing it. So I have to be able to operate online. The other thing is that you need to be able to demonstrate to an employer that you can execute anything that you are asked to do online. So important. So when I always ask people this, when I'm doing training in anything having to do with digital, I ask people, top productivity app. And everybody look at me. I don't know. You're young. Go and find out. How can you, employers associate young with savvy, tech savvy and bright, and you can't tell me what the top productivity app is?
Or at least name a few productivity apps that you do use if you don't know what's the top one.
All right. So I think, you know, that's the kind of mindset that people need to have. That's who you're competing with around the world. And make no mistake about it, the job that you could get that's going to pay you the highest and best for your talent may not necessarily be from a Jamaican employer. So you need to be able to impress them in that way. English is so important. The ability to communicate is really important to be able to present yourself. I found that, so if you can do anything in terms of, you know, sharpening your speaking skills, presentation skills, that's everything. Because like Tishana, if you see how Tishana is composed, how she's able to communicate well, she wouldn't be hosting this if people were concerned that she could not communicate, right? Because nobody's going to trust you with your brand to do that.
And if you have a great brand and you have a great message to share, but you can't communicate it well, then you have a major challenge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you should put it in a sentence, and you've talked about this in your presentation, but if I asked you, what is the future of work? What would you say?
I would say the future of work is digital. I think that's the most thing. It's digital. It is value-based. So because it is automated, you have to show up as your best self, because the jobs that are available that pay well require all of your faculties. And the last one is, it is ridiculously challenging, right? It goes back to that complex problem solving. The problems are not easy. So if you go in, oh God, this is going to be so hard. Well, then wake up. You're not ready for this. You know what I mean? It's hard. And people say, oh, but Yaneek, that's so harsh. Well, it doesn't make sense. I sugarcoat it and give you information that's not helpful.
Right. That's what I'm saying to everybody that's graduated, whether at the undergrad level, master's level, or PhD level, they're concerned, oh, how are we going to get jobs? I'm saying, if you are able to complete a degree in this time with all these challenges, then employers should realize that you have grit, resilience, and a number of the soft skills that you mentioned.
Yeah.
So, Yaneek, thank you so much. We're going to leave it. Pardon?
Thank you. It was a pleasure. It was my pleasure.
It was a pleasure, isn't it? We're going to leave it on that page with Miss Page. Thank you so much, Yaneek. All the best.
Bye.
All right.